In the grip of death, 4 words can shift eternity's course. That is the bold testimony of the man we introduce today, an atheist who believed no force could save him when his life slipped away. Yet when his soul plunged into a terrifying abyss, God reached down, pulling him free after he uttered those 4 words. What were they? Stay until the end to discover why God saved a man who rejected him. Comment Amen with your name and city to affirm your faith, and we will lift you in prayer before the Lord. Subscribe to our channel for more truths the world seeks to hide. Now, open your heart to the story of a man transformed by grace. My name is Sebastian, a university professor rooted in materialism, trusting only the rigid truths of science. I dismissed the spiritual, despite my family's deep Christian faith, which I viewed as quaint superstition. My life revolved around logic, with no room for the divine. One ordinary afternoon, while grading exams in my cluttered-up office, a sharp pain tore through my abdomen. It was unlike anything I had ever felt, a searing agony that stole my breath. I crumpled to the floor, papers scattering around me. A janitor, mopping nearby, heard my groans and rushed to my side. His quick call for help summoned an ambulance, and I was whisked to the hospital. Doctors discovered my appendix had burst, ignored for too long, poisoning my body. In the emergency room, my condition worsened, teetering on the edge of death. Miraculously, after my heart stopped for 5 minutes, it began beating again. I survived, unaware that those 5 minutes would reshape my existence. Everyone around me celebrated my recovery, oblivious to the journey I had undertaken. I had seen the depths of hell, been lifted to heaven's light, and met God himself. The experience was too profound to keep silent, so I began writing this account. That moment of collapse was only the beginning of my story. My soul had ventured beyond the physical, into a realm I once denied. The hospital bed became the starting point of a transformation I never expected. In those 5 minutes of clinical death, I encountered truths that shattered my skepticism. Nurses and doctors saw only my body, but my soul had traveled far beyond. This letter is my attempt to share that sacred journey. The pain had been a cruel teacher, stripping away my arrogance in an instant. As I lay recovering, I knew I could no longer live as the man I had been. My heart, once cold, now burned with a need to tell my story. The pain was excruciating, yet I sensed the medics lifting me onto a stretcher and rushing me into an ambulance. My university was near the hospital, and I held on, conscious of the chaos around me, until the emergency room's doors swung open. There, the agony overwhelmed me, and I let go, slipping into clinical death. My soul awakened, vibrant and clear, as if life had never been so vivid. I gazed at my body on the hospital bed, mistaking it for a lifeless mannequin. I called to the nurses, but my voice fell silent, and panic surged as no one responded. Confusion gripped me. I was no longer tethered to my physical form. The room's sterile walls seemed to pulse faintly, unfamiliar yet real. I reached for the bed, but my hand passed through, weightless and intangible. Anger flared as I shouted again, my cries swallowed by an eerie void. The monitors beeped steadily, indifferent to my presence hovering above. I was a specter in a world that no longer saw me. Desperation drove me toward the door, seeking anyone who could hear me. The hallway stretched unnaturally, its lights flickering with a strange range rhythm. A subtle pull urged me forward, away from the room. Something whispered that I was stepping beyond the life I knew. The air grew dense, the hospital's antiseptic scent fading into a damp chill. I glanced back at my body, a distant shell, and a strange calm settled over me. Yet unease stirred, hinting at the unknown awaiting me. My soul, unbound, was on the edge of something vast. The hospital walls blurred, dissolving into a grey mist that enveloped me. My thoughts raced, grappling with this new existence I had once denied. I had scoffed at the soul's reality, yet here I was, alive in a way I could not comprehend. The journey had begun, and I was already adrift. As the mist thickened, reality seemed to bend, pulling me deeper into the unknown. Fear mingled with curiosity, each step a surrender to forces beyond my control. I was no longer the skeptic I had been. I was a soul, vulnerable and exposed. What lay ahead was a mystery I could not escape. As the hospital's last traces faded, a voice called my name from the grey mist, its tone soft yet commanding, drawing me like a siren's song. I assumed it was a hospital worker, a lifeline in this disorienting realm, and followed eagerly, desperate for clarity. The voice grew colder, and the mist darkened into a suffocating void, revealing my guides as shadowy figures with hollow eyes. These were no human souls but malevolent spirits, their forms twisting like smoke, their laughter a blade against my spirit. They taunted me, not for denying God, but for lacking any shield in this realm, my soul an easy target for their cruelty. Their hands, cold as iron, gripped me, burning my essence with each touch, while their voices whispered my fears, amplifying them into torment. They dragged me into a cavernous abyss where light was a forgotten dream, and the air pulsed with despair. I was their prey, a newcomer they relished breaking, my screams fueling their malice. The darkness was alive, its weight crushing me as the spirits circled, their forms shifting into grotesque shapes. They conjured visions of my life, twisting moments of pride into accusations that seared my soul. Each attack was a calculated wound, designed to unravel my identity. I tried to resist, but my strength was nothing against their relentless assault. Their torment grew more savage, as if they sensed my weakening resolve. They clawed at my memories, forcing me to relive failures in vivid detail, each scene a fresh agony. My soul burned, not with fire, but with the shame they amplified. I was drowning in their hatred, my essence fraying under their unending cruelty. The spirits mocked my scientific certainty, their voices a chorus of derision that echoed in the void. They shaped the darkness into chains, binding me as they tore at my spirit. I felt myself fading, my sense of self slipping away. The abyss offered no escape, only the promise of eternal suffering. As I sank deeper, a new torment emerged. They forced me to see others trapped in this realm, their faces contorted in agony. Their screams blended with mine, a symphony of despair that shook me to my core. I realized this was no temporary punishment, it was a place of unending torment. My heart, or what remained of it, cried out for release, but none came. The spirits' attacks grew more intimate, probing my deepest insecurities. They showed me my students, their faces filled with disappointment, and my family, their prayers unanswered because of my coldness. Each vision was a dagger, twisting in wounds I had ignored in life. I was powerless, my soul a canvas for their cruelty. Time lost meaning, each moment stretching into an eternity of pain. The spirits fed on my fear, their forms growing stronger as I weakened. I curled inward, trying to protect what little of myself remained, yet even that small act of defiance seemed futile against their overwhelming power. The darkness pulsed, as if alive with their hatred, and I felt my soul splintering. They whispered that I belonged here, that this was my fate for a life of arrogance. Doubt crept in, and I wondered if they were right. The abyss was consuming me, and hope was a word I could no longer recall. As I teetered on the edge of surrender, a faint memory stirred a classroom debate where a student obeyed Sui. The spirits sensed my distraction and tightened their grip, their claws sinking deeper. But that memory, fragile as it was, became a lifeline. It was the first crack in the darkness, a whisper of something beyond this nightmare. In the depths of my torment, where the darkness seemed to choke my very soul, a voice pierced through, gentle yet unwavering, urging me to pray to God. As an atheist I recoiled, my mind branding it a delusion born of desperation, a trick of a fractured spirit. Yet the voice lingered, its warmth a stark contrast to the icy malice of the spirits clawing at me. Their relentless attacks surged, and I realized I had nothing left to lose in this suffocating abyss. My skepticism, a fortress I had built over decades, warred against the voice's call, but the pain was a relentless tide, pushing me towards surrender. I fumbled through memories, grasping at a prayer my mother taught me long ago. "The Lord is my shepherd." Whispering it, my voice barely audible, I felt the spirits pause, their fury disrupted as if struck by an unseen force. Their hesitation was fleeting, and they lunged back with renewed savagery, as if my words had ignited their wrath. I repeated the prayer, my trembling voice finding strength with each syllable. The spirits shrieked, their shadowy forms flickering like candles caught in a storm. The prayer became a fragile shield, its power real yet tenuous, holding back their assault for a moment. I clung to it, sensing it was my only anchor in this endless sea of darkness. Their rage escalated, their voices twisting my prayer into a mocking chant, each word dripping with venom. Yet each recitation of the prayer weakened their grip, as if it carried a divine authority they could not fully defy. The holy voice, now clearer, urged me to press on, its presence a quiet strength amidst the chaos. A spark of hope ignited within me, the first I had felt since falling into this nightmare. The spirits shifted their approach, whispering doubts to erode my newfound resolve. They sneered that my prayer was a hollow gesture, meaningless in their domain of despair. I faltered, my mind teetering on the edge of surrender, but the holy voice grew insistent, promising protection. With a surge of determination, I prayed again, my conviction rising like a flame against the cold. The darkness seemed to recoil, its oppressive weight lifting ever so slightly, as if afraid of my words. The spirits' forms blurred, their once solid shapes dissolving at the edges, their power waning. I sensed a battle unfolding, not just for my soul, but for my will to resist. The prayer was no longer a distant memory, it was a weapon, forged in the fire of desperation and nascent faith. Their attacks grew frantic, as if they sensed their dominion slipping away. Cracks appeared in the abyss, faint glimmers of light piercing the suffocating void like stars in a moonless night. The holy voice grew louder, its rhythm guiding my prayer, steadying my trembling spirit. I was no longer alone, and that realization fueled my defiance, pushing me to fight harder. The spirits' screams reached a deafening crescendo, their forms writhing as if burned by my words. My soul, battered but unbroken, began to feel a flicker of wholeness, as if the prayer was stitching me back together. The darkness pulsed, its foundations trembling under the weight of my growing resolve. I pressed on, each word a step toward salvation, a bridge to something greater than this torment. Their assault became chaotic, their once coordinated attacks now desperate and disjointed. The holy voice, now a beacon, cut through their cacophony, urging me to hold fast. I saw the spirits' eyes, once filled with malice, now flickering with fear. My prayer was dismantling their power, and I felt a surge of courage I had never known. The abyss itself seemed to groan, its walls shuddering as if unable to contain the light my words summoned. The spirits clawed at me one last time, their touch weaker, their voices fading into echoes. I stood taller, my soul no longer shrinking under their weight. The holy voice was my guide, leading me through the chaos toward a distant hope. I recalled my mother's face, her hands folded in prayer, teaching me those sacred words in our quiet kitchen. The memory strengthened me, grounding my soul in a truth I had long rejected. The spirits sensed this shift and howled, their forms fraying like smoke in the wind. My prayer was now a song, its melody rising above their discord, pulling me closer to deliverance. The darkness began to fracture, its oppressive grip loosening as light seeped through the cracks. The holy voice spoke again, its tone both gentle and commanding, promising I was not forsaken. I felt a connection to something eternal, a power that transcended the abyss. My soul, once lost, was finding its way, guided by the prayer I had once dismissed. The spirits' forms grew faint, their screams reduced to whispers as my prayer grew louder. I saw their shapes dissolve, their malice no longer able to hold me. The holy voice was now a chorus, filling the void with a warmth that banished the cold. I was no longer their victim, I was a soul reclaiming its strength, ready for the next step in this divine battle. When the torment reached its unbearable peak and every corner of my soul felt crushed beneath the weight of despair, I cried out with everything I had left inside me. "Jesus, please save me," I shouted into the choking darkness, again and again, until the final syllable tore from my throat, like a lifeline cast into eternity. For a brief moment, nothing responded. The silence deepened, the shadows thickened, and I thought all was lost. Then suddenly a brilliance erupted before me, piercing through the abyss like lightning cracking through a storm-filled sky. The darkness recoiled, and the weight that had suffocated me for what felt like forever began to lift. From the center of that light emerged a figure, radiant and unmistakable. It was Jesus, clothed not only in light but in a presence so powerful and holy that even the shadows around him trembled and vanished. He didn't speak at first, He didn't need to. His gaze met mine, and in that gaze I felt everything change. The fear, the guilt, the emptiness, the years of disbelief all melted away like frost in sunlight. I felt seen, not for what I had done or failed to do, but for who I truly was underneath the doubt and sin. His love enveloped me like a warmth I had never known. My soul, fractured and filthy, was lifted into something whole, something beloved. He extended his hand toward me, and I reached for it without hesitation. The moment our fingers touched, a surge of peace thundered through me. The tormenting spirits vanished in an instant, scattered by his presence like leaves in a storm. Their twisted screams were drowned in the silence of his authority. I could breathe again, not with lungs, but with my soul, as if I had just been born anew. He pulled me from the pit with gentleness that stunned me, and yet every movement of his was filled with the force of divine power. As I rose, I felt the residue of hell slide off me, like mud washed away by a river of mercy. The agony that had gripped me just moments before was replaced by an unspeakable joy. It was not merely relief from suffering. It was the discovery that love himself had come for me, even though I had not believed in him. The light around us expanded, pushing the abyss further and further behind. I looked into his face, and it was like staring into eternity made flesh. There were no words to describe his beauty, not just in appearance but in essence. It was the kind of beauty that makes everything else seem false, the kind that strips away all masks and reveals your soul exactly as it is. But there was no condemnation in his eyes, only a fierce and holy tenderness. We moved upward, though there were no wings or steps, only light carrying us like music carries a song. I was surrounded by something more real than the world I had once known. Time slowed, then quickened, then seemed to stop altogether, and I was aware of nothing but him. His hand never let go of mine. His grip was strong but kind, like a father guiding a child through unfamiliar territory. Below us, I could still sense the remnants of the place I had come from, but it could not reach me anymore. His light shielded me, and even my memories of the torment began to fade into the distance. Instead, I saw other souls, distant yet near, some being drawn upward like me, others lost in confusion or despair. Yet in the presence of Jesus, there was no room for fear. There was only trust. He spoke my name not aloud, but directly into my spirit. That sound healed something ancient in me, something I hadn't known was broken. I felt like a son returning home after a lifetime of exile. I was not merely rescued. I was claimed. As we ascended, a host of shimmering figures appeared around us, silent and full of reverence. Angels, perhaps, though they did not introduce themselves. Their presence did not distract me, for Jesus remained the center. Every light around us came from him, and everything within me clung to him. I looked down one final time, not in fear, but in awe. The darkness I had once been trapped in looked small now, like a dream fading at dawn. I realized that it had no power over me anymore, not since I called out his name. That cry, "Jesus, please save me," had not just saved me from death. It had torn open the veil between heaven and earth and brought me face to face with the living God. We kept rising, and I wept not from pain but from a joy so deep it felt like singing with every fiber of my being. I was no longer afraid. I was no longer alone. I was held in the arms of the one who created me, the one who died for me, and the one who had answered me in the abyss. This was not the end of my story. It was the beginning. Jesus guided me through a radiant void, a shimmering threshold that opened into a realm of boundless light, heaven itself. He led me to a lake, its waters glowing with a divine warmth that seemed to pulse with life, and gently lowered me into its embrace. As the waters enveloped me, my pain dissolved, my wounds healed, and the chaos in my mind unraveled, leaving only clarity. I emerged reborn, my soul cleansed as if the abyss's touch had never scarred me. I stood trembling, feeling unworthy, certain Jesus had mistaken me for another more deserving soul. He met my doubt with a gaze of unwavering certainty, saying, "I never err. You are mine, lost but now found." His words were a balm, soothing my fears and igniting a sense of belonging I had never known. The lake's light reflected a truth I could no longer deny, anchoring me in this divine reality. Heaven unfolded before us, a tapestry of colors and sounds that transcended earthly imagination, each hue singing with joy. Fields of light stretched endlessly, their patterns dancing like waves of love made visible. Walking with Jesus felt like a silent conversation, his presence filling me with awe and wonder. This was no mere place, it was the essence of divine love, a home my soul had always sought. We moved through groves where light bloomed like flowers, each petal a note in a silent symphony that resonated within me. Jesus' silence was as profound as his words, teaching me truths beyond language. My soul, once bound by skepticism, drank in the beauty, shedding the doubts that had defined me. I was home, though I had never known this place until now. The air shimmered with a warmth that felt alive, as if heaven itself reached out to welcome me. I glimpsed other souls, their forms radiant and fluid, moving in harmony with the light, their joy a melody in the air. Jesus guided me past them, his hand a constant reassurance, grounding me in this eternal realm. Each step deepened my understanding, revealing heaven as a reflection of divine unity. We paused at a stream, its crystalline waters singing as they flowed over stones that glowed like stars. Jesus knelt, touching the surface, and images of my life rippled across it, moments of choice and consequence laid bare. I saw my actions, good and bad, but felt no judgment, only his desire for me to learn and grow. The stream's song wove my story into heaven's eternal tapestry, a testament to his mercy. Heaven's light grew brighter, revealing structures that were not buildings but living expressions of divine will, shifting to reflect the souls within. Jesus explained, without words, that heaven was a realm of infinite possibilities, shaped by love's boundless creativity. My mind, once confined by logic, expanded to embrace this truth, marveling at its complexity. Each revelation was a gift, reshaping my understanding of existence. The journey felt timeless, yet I sensed its purpose, to prepare me for a mission yet to come. Jesus' presence was my anchor, guiding me through wonders that stretched beyond comprehension. I longed to remain, to lose myself in this light forever, but his gaze hinted at a calling I could not ignore. My soul, now alive with purpose, was ready to follow his lead. We crossed a meadow where light pulsed like a heartbeat, each wave carrying whispers of eternal truths. I saw souls dancing, their movements a celebration of divine love, and felt a longing to join them. Jesus smiled, his presence assuring me that my place among them was secure. The meadow's light wove it itself into my soul, a promise of eternity. As we walked, I asked Jesus about the nature of heaven, and he showed me its layers, each a reflection of a soul's alignment with love. His answers were visions, immersing me in realms where joy and truth intertwined. My questions, once rooted in doubt, now sought to understand his heart. Heaven was not just a destination, it was a state of being, alive with his presence. The air grew sweeter, filled with a fragrance that spoke of divine compassion. I saw a city of light, its spires reaching toward an infinite sky, each structure a song of praise. Jesus led me through its streets, where souls greeted us with silent joy, their eyes reflecting his light. My soul swelled, knowing I was part of this eternal community. We paused at a cliff overlooking a sea of light, its waves crashing with a melody that echoed creation's first breath. Jesus spoke of my life, not to condemn but to reveal my potential. His voice was a gentle fire, burning away my doubts and igniting a purpose within me. I felt both humbled and empowered, ready to carry his light back to the world. The journey continued, each moment a revelation of heaven's depth and beauty. I saw gardens where every flower sang, their petals shimmering with stories of redeemed souls. Jesus' presence was a constant, his love the thread that wove every wonder together. My soul, once lost, was now a vessel for his truth, ready for the mission ahead. Jesus and a host of angels unveiled my life, a vivid panorama unfolding across the heavens like a film woven from light itself. Every moment of my existence played out my triumphs in academia, my failures in kindness, and the hearts I had either touched or ignored. I saw myself as a professor, brilliant in my lectures, but distant in my soul, achieving professional success while failing those who needed my warmth. The angels' judgment was stark, assigning me an F in love, their verdict a mirror, reflecting my deep-seated selfishness. The scenes were relentless, each one a piercing reminder of my indifference. I watched a student, her eyes bright with hope, approach me for guidance, only to be dismissed with a curt wave of my hand. Her dreams, fragile, unformed, crumbled under my coldness, and the pain of her disappointment struck me like a physical blow. Jesus stood beside me, his silence a gentle urging to confront the truth without shrinking from it. A memory of my mother surfaced, her hands folded in prayer each night, her heart heavy with love for a son who mocked her faith. Her tears, unseen in life, now glistened in the heavenly light, each one a wound to my soul. Jesus whispered, "Love is why you were made," his voice both a judgment and a beacon of hope. Those words stirred a longing to redeem the years I had wasted in pride. The review deepened, revealing moments I had buried, kind words I spoke carelessly, cruel silences I wielded like weapons. Each scene was a lesson, showing how my actions rippled through the lives of others, leaving traces of joy or pain. I yearned to return, to heal the wounds I had inflicted with my neglect. Jesus' presence, steady and compassionate, assured me that redemption was within reach. The angels paused at a fleeting moment I had nearly forgotten, a winter evening when I gave my coat to a homeless man shivering outside my office. His gratitude, unnoticed in my rush, now glowed like a star in the tapestry of my life, its light piercing the darkness of my failures. Jesus smiled, his eyes revealing that even small acts of love carried eternal weight. The contrast with my countless oversights fueled a resolve to live differently. Another scene unfolded, a family dinner where my siblings reached out, their voices warm with affection, only for me to retreat into my work. Their hurt lingered in the air, a silent accusation of my absence, their faces etched with disappointment I had ignored. The angels' voices echoed softly, "Relationships are your true legacy." I vowed, with a heart newly awakened, to mend those fractured bonds if given the chance. The review continued, each memory a thread in the intricate weave of my existence. I saw how my skepticism had built walls, isolating me from those who sought connection. Jesus' gaze held no condemnation, only a challenge to tear down those barriers and live with love as my guide. My soul ached with the weight of missed opportunities, yet it burned with a new purpose. A painful scene emerged, a colleague, his kindness met with my sharp dismissal, his smile fading as I turned away. The angels showed me the ripple of that moment, how his confidence waned, affecting others in ways I never imagined. Jesus' hand rested on my shoulder, a silent reminder that I could still make amends. The weight of my failures was heavy, but his presence offered hope for change. The angels shifted to a classroom, where a student's potential dimmed until sad and patience. She was now a teacher, struggling with self-doubt because I had not believed in her. Jesus' touch was gentle, his voice urging me to inspire rather than discourage. The scene faded, but its lesson etched itself into my soul, a call to nurture rather than neglect. Another memory surfaced, a late-night argument with my brother, my words cutting deeper than I intended. His pain, hidden behind a forced smile, now stood bare before me, a wound I had caused. The angel's judgment was clear. My pride had cost me dearly. I longed to embrace him, to replace my harshness with love, if only I could return. The review revealed smaller moments, acts of kindness I dismissed as trivial, cruelties I justified as necessary. Each was a thread in my life story, showing how even fleeting interactions shaped others' lives. Jesus' silence was a teacher, guiding me to see the eternal impact of my choices. My heart, once cold, now burned with a desire to live for others. The final scenes focused on my students, their faces a gallery of potential I had often overlooked. One, a quiet girl with a gift for writing, had faltered because I offered critique without encouragement. Jesus' presence reminded me that love could still inspire, even now. The review ended, but its lessons became a fire within me, urging me to live with purpose. As the panorama faded, I stood before Jesus, my soul laid bare, its flaws and fleeting virtues exposed. The angels' voices softened, their judgment complete, leaving me with a clarity I had never known. Jesus' gaze, warm and resolute, promised a chance to rewrite my story. I was ready to return, not as the man I had been, but as one transformed by love's eternal call. Jesus opened my mind, his presence a radiant gateway to the universe's deepest secrets, inviting me to ask anything without fear. My heart trembled at the chance to unravel mysteries I had once dismissed as a skeptic. I questioned the enigma of death, and he revealed that most souls, unaware of their passing, find pain fading into a clarity beyond earthly grasp. Infants who die are reborn in his light, spared judgment, while Christians face a celestial tribunal where only 2.43% remain steadfast in faith. His words reshaped my view of eternity, burning away doubts that had anchored me to materialism. I saw souls transitioning, their earthly burdens dissolving into divine understanding. The revelation ignited wonder, replacing my rigid skepticism with awe. My mind, once confined, soared with the freedom of his truth. I asked about the cosmos, and he unveiled its vastness, a tapestry of realms woven with divine intent, each thread pulsing with purpose. Earth, he explained, is a crucible where spiritual awareness flickers but holds infinite potential for growth. His answers were visions, immersing me in truths I had once mocked. I saw galaxies spinning in harmony, each star a note in his symphony. My mind expanded, embracing the infinite expanse of his creation. The cosmos was no longer a cold void, but a living testament to his design. Each vision deepened my awe, as if I were seeing the universe anew. My soul, once bound by logic, now danced with the rhythm of his creation. I inquired about suffering's purpose, a question born from years of dismissing pain as meaningless. He showed me its role as a forge, shaping love and resilience, his own cross a testament to a sacrifice binding him to humanity. His voice wove complex truths into simple grace, filling me with humility and hope. Suffering, I saw, was a sculptor, carving strength from weakness. Every pain was a thread in the tapestry of redemption, a truth that struck me with awe. I felt uplifted, my questions met with care that spoke of divine love. The vision of his cross lingered, grounding me in its eternal weight. Suffering was not an end, but a path to deeper connection with him. Why me? I asked, a skeptic plucked from the abyss's jaws, my voice trembling with disbelief. Jesus smiled, his eyes radiating love that saw a hidden spark of faith beneath my doubt. He said my soul had called to him, marking me for a purpose I was beginning to grasp. I was no accident, chosen by his boundless mercy. His answer pierced my heart, revealing a love that had always been there. I saw my life as a journey. He had walked with me, even in my denial. The realization humbled me, filling me with a sense of destiny. I felt both small and significant, resolved in his gaze. I questioned the afterlife's structure, and he revealed layers of existence, each reflecting a soul's alignment with love's eternal rhythm. Souls drifted or ascended based on their choices, guided by his mercy. The vision was overwhelming, yet his presence made it clear, grounding me in truth. I saw my place in this cosmic dance, woven into his divine whole. The afterlife unfolded like a celestial map, each realm vibrant with purpose. I saw souls moving through these planes, some rising, others lingering, yet all within his reach. His mercy was a current, guiding each toward redemption. My heart swelled, knowing I was part of this divine order. I asked about war, its chaos a wound I could not fathom. He showed me its roots in pride and fear, fracturing humanity's unity. Forgiveness, he said, could heal even the deepest scars, rippling across realms. His words were a call to embody this truth in the world below. The vision of war scars showed battlefields and broken hearts, yet his promise of forgiveness shone brighter. A single act of grace could shift destinies, a truth I longed to share. My soul expanded with this wisdom, eager to sow peace. His words settled within me, a mission to heal conflict. I sought God's plan for humanity, and he unveiled a vision of unity, fractured by pride but redeemable through love. Earth was a school, its lessons harsh yet eternal, awakening souls to their divine purpose. His voice carried sorrow for the world's blindness and resolve for its redemption. I felt a responsibility to carry this message to the lost. Humanity's potential was breathtaking, a world where love could mend what pride had torn. I saw souls awakening, their hearts turning toward his light. His sorrow for the lost urged me to act with courage. My purpose clarified, a vow to bridge Earth's brokenness with his plan. I asked about the fate of the lost, their cries echoing in my memory. He showed me souls adrift, yet never beyond his reach, guided by unfaltering mercy. His vision was a tapestry of hope, each soul a thread he longed to weave into his embrace. My heart ached, vowing to be a voice for his love. The lost appeared, their faces etched with longing, yet his light pursued them relentlessly. His mercy was a river, flowing toward the darkest corners. This vision filled me with resolve to guide others to his light. My soul, once adrift, burned with a mission to help the lost. I questioned faith's nature, and he revealed it as a seed, growing through trust and surrender. Even my doubt, he said, was a path to this moment, a journey he walked with me. His words ignited a faith I had never known. I felt reshaped, a vessel of his truth. Faith was a spark that could grow into a flame, sustained by surrender. I saw my doubts as stepping stones to this awakening. His presence turned skepticism into vibrant belief. The fire of faith burned brightly, ready to light the way for others. The dialogue stretched on, each question a step deeper into his heart. His answers were seeds, planted in my soul for the world I would return to. I longed to stay, but his gaze hinted at a purpose awaiting me. My skepticism was gone, replaced by a fire to serve his plan. As the conversation closed, I felt heaven prepare me for departure. Jesus' final words charged me to carry his truth with courage and love. My soul, a vessel of his wisdom, was ready to return, transformed. I left enlightened, my heart a beacon for the world below. Though heaven called me to stay, Jesus insisted I return to fulfill my purpose. I awoke in the hospital, my body frail but my spirit alive with newfound faith. A young man, dressed as a doctor with golden hair, comforted me, his voice assuring me of safety before he vanished. The nurse swore no such figure had entered, and I knew he was an angel, sent to affirm my journey's truth. My recovery stunned the doctors, who called it inexplicable, yet I knew its source. I began reading scripture, its words now alive, and joined a church, sharing my story each Sunday. The congregation embraced me, their faith strengthened by my testimony. I lived to spread this truth, to call others to the God who saved me. Each day I reflect on heaven's light, its lessons guiding my every choice. My heart, once cold, now burns with love, eager to heal the bonds I broke. I speak of Jesus, not as a distant figure, but as the one who held my hand. My life is his, a witness to his unending grace. The angel's visit remains vivid, a reminder that my experience was no dream. I see his face in quiet moments, his eyes urging me to stay true. My story, shared weekly, draws others closer to God, their questions sparking my own growth. I am no longer the atheist I was. I am a messenger of hope. I visit my mother's grave, praying for her and thanking her for her faith that saved me. Her memory fuels my mission, a bridge to my family, whom I now embrace. Each sermon I give is a step toward redemption, a chance to live as Jesus taught. The church has become my home, its people my family. The world feels different now, its challenges, opportunities to show love. I teach my students with patience, their growth a reflection of my own. My story, once a secret, is now a light for others, its truth undeniable. Jesus' call is my guide, and I walk it with unwavering faith. Sebastian's testimony has ended, but its message endures. The only certainty, the only salvation is God. Spiritual transformation is simple, just call his name. Share your thoughts in the comments, and let us discuss the power of his love together. Have you ever asked yourself, if one day you fell into hell, how would you escape? The man in today's story went through exactly that, and he found a way out, just when he thought every door had been closed, and there was only one way out. So what saved him from that haunting reality? This is one of the most terrifying and gripping stories I've ever heard. But I'll say this now. If you're faint of heart or easily frightened, you may want to stop here. But if you're ready, watch until the very end, because the truth revealed in this story might be the one thing that saves your soul right now. You're watching Eternal Bible Stories, where real near-death experiences are shared to awaken faith and illuminate the soul. If you haven't subscribed yet, click that subscribe button now. And don't forget to comment and tell us which city you're watching from, because when you speak up, it's your way of telling God you're ready for his blessing. Now, let's hear his testimony. My name is Justin Harper. I'm 59 years old, living in Shropshire, a quiet countryside in the west of England. My mother died of cancer when I was just 12, and from that moment everything started to fall apart. My father drowned himself in alcohol, so I grew up with a constant sense of abandonment, like a faded shadow drifting through a cold house with no laughter. Those childhood years left a deep emptiness inside me, one I always tried to fill with silence. Then I met Helen, my wife, the woman who pulled me out of the mud. We got married, and when our first son was born, I believed God had finally shown me mercy. That little family was the most precious thing I ever had, the only hope that kept me standing in a stormy life. For many years, I worked as an accountant for a small construction company, just enough to support my family and live simply. It wasn't an ideal life, but for me, it was already a miracle. I thought that dark past had finally faded away for good. But then everything collapsed with just one phone call. That day, when I picked up the phone and heard the voice of a police officer on the other end giving me the news, I still thought it must have been a mistake. But no, they confirmed that my son, the last hope I held onto, had died in a car accident. He was only 19. From that day on, my wife grew distant, and eventually she left without a word of blame. I didn't have the strength to hold her back, nor the willpower to focus on work. Losing my son, my family, and my job, I no longer cared about anything. I used to stand in front of the mirror, staring into my own eyes, unable to recognize the man staring back. Depression devoured me, day by day, hour by hour, and I began to think that perhaps death was the only thing that could release me from the quiet agony burning in my chest. Then, on a cold winter afternoon, while I was trying to reheat some soup in the empty kitchen, my chest suddenly felt like it was being crushed. My breathing became frantic, and everything around me started to darken. I collapsed to the floor, and my heart stopped beating. But my consciousness didn't vanish into nothingness. It was pulled somewhere I had never imagined. A world thick with darkness, where every last bit of hope was suffocated. And from that moment on, my journey beyond death began. At first, everything was pitch black. I couldn't see anything, couldn't hear anything. There was only one sensation: I was falling. But this wasn't the kind of fall you experience in a dream, where you jolt awake in fear. No, I was being pulled downward. A heavy, invisible force, cold as ice, was dragging me into a place where my instincts screamed that no one should ever go. The feeling is impossible to describe in words, as if a giant hand made of darkness was gripping my soul, squeezing it tight and sinking it into an unfathomable abyss. The space around me was deathly silent, but not the peaceful kind of silence. This was the silence of places long forgotten by life. I had no idea how long I had been falling. Time here didn't resemble any concept I had ever known. Everything just kept dragging on, endlessly, as if I had been falling for hours or centuries. Then a scene appeared. Not light, but a murky, desolate land, void of any sign of life. The ground beneath my feet was ice cold, covered in grey dust like ashes. Above me the sky held no moon or stars, just a thick layer of deep crimson clouds swirling within a dense fog. The air here was heavy, infused with the stench of burnt metal and decay, and even though I no longer had lungs, I could still feel it piercing into my very soul. But what chilled me the most were the red clouds. They were unlike anything I had ever seen in life. They floated in place, moving with a kind of awareness, twisting into warped shapes, as if moaning in agony. And they were watching me, not with eyes, but with a strange sense of perception, as if scanning the darkest secrets inside me. I didn't know what they were, but one thing was certain: they were alive, and they knew me. At first, I am not sure where I was, or if this could even be called a place in the usual sense. It felt as though I was standing in the graveyard of souls who could never find rest, not because they were bound from the outside, but because they had locked themselves in emotional prisons they had never dared to face. Around me, red clouds hovered and twisted in the air, as if whispering in an invisible language. And then I realized, I too was carrying such a cloud, silently swirling above my head like a shadow I could never escape. Later, when I returned, I understood what those clouds truly were. I was dragged through the red fog, moving in silence until the first sound shattered the stillness. A scream, long, cracking and splintering, as if someone was being stripped of every layer of their soul. Then came a second scream, a third, a fourth, and before long the entire space seemed to be wailing. The cries echoed from every direction, as if even the realm of the dead had learned to fear. And then, amidst the screams, I heard something else, a growl, deep, low, as though the very earth itself was rumbling in rage. I didn't know where I was going until a massive cave appeared ahead. Its entrance was like the mouth of an ancient beast that had slumbered for millennia, pitch black, endless and cold as a soul locked away. There was no light here. The only thing that allowed me to see was the darkness itself, a thick, tar-like blackness that clung to my thoughts and emotions. In front of the cave, I saw hundreds of people, or rather souls. They no longer had clear human shapes, but I knew they had once been alive. They sat huddled, clutching their knees, eyes wide open and bloodshot. They didn't look at me, didn't speak, only trembled like beings who had abandoned hope long ago. Some rested their heads in their hands, others stared into the void with vacant gazes. Each one seemed to be imprisoned by their own fear. No chains needed, for they had already shackled themselves. I was just about to take another step when it appeared. From the cave's shadows, a massive entity slithered forth, silent to the point of terror. It didn't growl, there were no footsteps, only its presence, so heavy the very air around it seemed to recoil in dread. Its entire body was covered in slick black skin like scorched coal, with grotesquely long arms ending in claws as sharp as blades honed to cut into souls. It had no face, just a gaping abyss where eyes should have been, but I knew it saw me. I could feel its eyeless stare piercing into my heart like an invisible spear. Without a word, it extended its arm. One single motion, swift and practiced like a reflex it had carried out countless times. It snatched a few of the hunched souls sitting in front. Screams erupted instantly. A woman shrieked, "Please spare me!" A man clawed at the formless ground beneath him, his voice hoarse with desperation. But none were spared. They were dragged into the cave, and the moment their shadows were swallowed by the blackness, their screams were silenced, as if they had never existed at all. I stood there, frozen. I didn't know what this place was called, but deep inside, I knew this was the threshold of hell. Then that demon returned and dragged me back into the tunnel. In front of me appeared a bizarre screen, not hanging in the air nor attached to any surface, but seemingly existing in the middle of the void, radiating flickering light like electric currents running through shards of broken glass. Its edges shimmered like rippling water, but the center displayed everything with a terrifying clarity, and within that I began to see. I saw my life, not like a film playing on a screen, but as a continuous stream unfolding right before my eyes, vivid, intense, and painfully real to the point that it took my breath away. Every fragment of memory, even the tiniest ones, surfaced clearly. Moments I thought I had long forgotten, like the time I secretly hid my sister's birthday gift out of jealousy, or when I turned away and pretended not to see a friend silently crying in the hallway. All came back, but they didn't just appear as images. They came with emotion, color, and soul. Each memory felt like a small world being reborn, forcing me to relive it, unable to fast forward, unable to look away, unable to filter. I saw the beautiful memories, the rare moments of light in a life I once considered ordinary. I saw my mother, her radiant face on a summer afternoon, holding me tight after my first fall. I saw my friends, the carefree kids we once were, bursting into laughter when I slipped and fell in the schoolyard, trying to imitate a robot walk. I saw myself placing a loaf of bread in the hand of a homeless man without saying a word, then quietly walking away. Not out of nobility, but because I didn't want anyone to know I had done something kind. Those moments made my throat tighten. They seemed small at the time, but now I realized they were more precious than anything I had ever achieved in life. But the darker parts of my life also emerged, those I had tried so hard to bury. I saw myself yelling at a taxi driver just because he took a wrong turn when I was late for a meeting. I saw the fear in his eyes, and suddenly I felt the hurt he endured from my unprovoked anger. I saw myself walking past a woman crying on the sidewalk while holding her baby, ignoring her simply because I didn't want the trouble. I saw the sad face of a close friend whom I had ignored for months, too caught up in living my own life. Each of those moments cut into me like a blade. The most terrifying part wasn't what I saw, it was what I felt. I truly felt their pain. I felt the loneliness of that forgotten friend, the panic of that mother on the street, the quiet suffering of that innocent taxi driver. These emotions were no longer someone else's story. They flowed straight into me, beating in rhythm with my soul. And because I no longer had a physical body to shield me, every sensation became absolute, raw, unfiltered, unstoppable. I couldn't bear it. It felt as if I was reliving the worst things I had ever done. Not from my own perspective, but from the eyes of the people I had hurt. I was the victim of myself. Every unloving act, every moment of indifference had now become a mirrored blade, slicing into me. Suddenly, I realized that this might be the life review before I was pulled into hell. I closed my eyes, unable to endure the suffocating sensation gripping me from the inside. What I had just gone through in the life review, the emotions multiplied 100-fold, left me utterly exhausted. I didn't want to see, didn't want to feel, didn't want to face anything else. But when I opened my eyes, hoping I had escaped the nightmare, I realized I had only just begun to enter hell. I was back inside that pitch-black cave, but this time everything was sharper, painfully vivid, no longer blurred or fragmented like a dream. Every detail was alive, as if I were truly present in another reality. The air was heavy, bitterly cold, and something invisible seemed to be pressing down on my chest, not with hands, but with fear. I could feel it swirling around me, thick waves of energy like smoke and fire from a fury that had been compressed for thousands of years. I stood there, my soul trembling, trying to make sense of what was happening, when the shapes began to appear. They slithered out from the darkness, not the horned devils with tails from church paintings or childhood catechism books. No, they were far more terrifying. They resembled torn shadows, twisted forms, not quite human or beast, at times long and snake-like, other times hunched and walking like bipedal creatures. Their skin was glossy black, like burned plastic, but glowing with deep red cracks underneath, as if molten lava boiled through every fiber of their being. And their eyes, my God, their eyes, deep, smoldering like embers, full of hatred. Not just fleeting anger, but a kind of hatred that had been fermented in silence, in isolation, in utter despair. They looked at me as if I were the one who must now pay for everything. One of them moved closer to me. It didn't walk in a physical sense. It floated, gliding as if through another dimension, and I felt my head being crushed by some invisible force. Then came the voice, not from its mouth, but echoing inside my mind, not a sentence, thousands of whispers at once, like echoes from the bottom of a chasm. Do you remember? And then it recited every mistake I had made, every dark thought I had ever had but never said aloud. I thought I had forgotten all of that, those shameful, cruel memories, those moments I never dared revisit. But now they were being dragged into the light, raw and undeniable. They flooded back like old wounds torn open, bleeding again. I didn't just recall them. I felt every detail, as if they were being etched into my soul with fire, and the most terrifying part was the being in front of me. It didn't move, didn't speak, yet I knew it knew everything, every secret I had ever buried, every twisted thought. I was completely exposed. I trembled, shivering uncontrollably, and in that moment of despair, I thought, this must be Satan. Who else could see into the deepest cracks of my soul? But then I looked closer, and what I saw stunned me more than fear itself. On its body and on the others standing motionless around it were chains. Fiery red chains, burning dimly as if forged from the very core of hell. These chains didn't just wrap around them, they pierced through their flesh, scorching down to the bone. At first I thought they were instruments of punishment, but then I realized no, they were shackles for prisoners. These creatures weren't lords of hell, not rulers. They were victims. They were being burned, imprisoned, tormented, just like me. The agony was written into their hollow stares, into every heavy, contorted movement of their hopeless forms. These demons perhaps had once been human, and now I was beginning to understand a terrifying truth. The first possibility appeared clearly in my mind. These beings had once been people. They had lived, loved, had names and memories. But unable to forgive themselves, consumed by resentment, envy, and guilt, they had let their souls rot until they lost their humanity entirely. They weren't punished by an external force. They had written their own sentence through endless inner loops of torment. And now they existed as bringers of pain, not because they wanted to, but because it had become their twisted survival reflex after losing all light. This is how hell births demons, not from darkness, but from the human heart. The second possibility was equally horrifying. These entities might be products of human consciousness, born from the very fear, guilt, and hatred carried by a soul. In this world, thoughts are not just thoughts. They have shape, power, and a life of their own. And when a soul is covered in darkness for too long, it can unconsciously manifest monsters, egregores, as a form of self-punishment. They don't need a creator. They are born from destruction within. And more terrifying still, other souls can see and believe in their presence, making them more real, stronger, and impossible to erase. I began to realize something even more dreadful. Perhaps both are true. Perhaps some demons were once people, and now they create nightmare copies of themselves in others' minds, continuing the cycle of suffering. No chains are needed. Hell traps souls with emotion, with regret, with rage, with shame. I stood there, no one tying me down, yet I couldn't move. Because the true prison wasn't around me, it was inside me. And I understood that if I ever hoped to escape this place, I would first have to escape from myself. I didn't know how long I had been there. Every concept of time dissolved into the roars echoing through the cavern. Those sounds weren't just around me, they flowed straight into my mind like thousands of blades tearing me apart from within. I felt like I was being drowned by my own emotions, guilt, regret, anger, fear, all swirling into a vortex pulling me deeper into the abyss. I wanted to scream, to cry out loud so that everything would disappear, but I couldn't. No matter how hard I tried, not a single sound escaped my lips. It felt like my throat was being clamped shut by invisible chains. And then, in my most desperate moment, a thought suddenly rose in my mind, not from outside but from deep within my soul, that I can't stay here. I don't belong here, and I'm not ready to die. I didn't think I was a good person. I didn't even think I deserved to be saved. But in the depths of pain and fear, I knew one thing. If I didn't say something, if I didn't do something, I would be swallowed forever. At first I thought of salvation as a vague glimmer of hope, like someone reaching out in a storm with no idea if anyone was out there. But that thought didn't stop there. It grew inside me, from a whisper in my head to a faint voice rising among the chaos of emotions. I whispered in my heart, "If anyone can hear me, please save me." Then I began to speak out loud, weakly, trembling, as if every syllable was being pulled from the deepest wound in my soul. My voice cracked. "Please, someone, anyone." I looked up, eyes filled with tears, my whole body shaking. Despair still gripped me, but I was no longer silent. I spoke louder, like someone holding on to life. "I don't want to be here. Please, someone. If there's light, if there's a God, save me." Then I screamed. I screamed like I never had before. I screamed with everything I had left, not just with my mouth, but with my soul. A cry that tore through the night of the afterlife. "God, please save me." Later, when I read the Bible again, I understood that what I had done was exactly what had been promised from the beginning. "For whosoever shall call upon the name of the Lord shall be saved." Right after that plea, the space around me seemed to tremble. From afar, through the thick, blood-red mist, a golden, warm beam of light appeared. Faint, fragile, but unmistakable. It didn't flood the darkness with brightness, nor did it destroy the terror around me. It just stood still, like a silent witness among the dead. But that very presence made the entities around me scream. They recoiled in fear, and I saw the molten chains wrapped around their bodies begin to crack, bit by bit. That light wasn't fire nor sunlight, it was love, mercy, something I had never felt so clearly before. No one touched me, yet I felt embraced. A feeling of forgiveness, unconditional, without needing explanation, began to seep into every corner of my soul. From the center of that light, 3 beings began to walk toward me. There was no blinding halo like in church paintings. Their footsteps made no sound, but I felt the ground, or rather, the spiritual realm beneath me, tremble with each step they took. They didn't look like any image of angels I had ever imagined. No wings, no white robes or glittering crowns. Instead, they appeared simple, almost human, but every feature of theirs seemed sculpted from pure light. Not the kind of light that dazzles the eyes, but the kind that warms the soul. Their eyes held no judgment, no accusation, only understanding, so deep that it made me cry the moment I met their gaze. The first being, the one in the middle, seemed to be the center of that power. He stepped toward me, slow but certain. When our eyes met, I felt something I couldn't describe in words. He knew me, not just my name, but everything I had ever tried to hide. He knew the cracks in my soul, and he wasn't afraid of them. He raised his hand, not touching me, just holding it in front of my forehead, and a stream of light, like crystal water, poured into me. I felt impurities, layers of guilt, fear, hatred, melting away like smoke in the wind. The second one stood on the right, smaller, gentler, and radiating a strange calmness. He didn't speak. He leaned in close to my ear and whispered, not with a voice but with spirit. I couldn't hear any specific words, but my heart suddenly trembled as if it had just been awakened. In that moment, I understood I wasn't just a lost soul. I had a name, a place, a purpose. He called me by my true name, the name only my soul remembered. And for the first time in my life, I felt I wasn't anonymous in this vast universe. The third one stood behind me, doing nothing. He didn't speak, didn't touch me. He just stood there, majestic and silent, like a wall of light between me and the screaming entities behind. And I saw them, those twisted shadows, one by one, shrieking in terror. Under that being's light they retreated, like wild beasts splashed with holy water. The molten chains around their bodies began to crack, emitting the sound of stone breaking under. They weren't defeated by weapons, but by sacred presence. They didn't fight the darkness, they simply stepped forward, placed a hand on my shoulder, and the moment that hand touched me, I felt myself being pulled out of a bottomless pit. I don't know if they were angels or manifestations of God's mercy. I don't know why they came. Was it just because I cried out? But I know this for sure. Without them, I couldn't have escaped. The light they brought didn't just dissolve the darkness around me, it reached the part of my soul I thought had died, the part that held repentance. I began to weep, not from fear, but because for the first time in years, I felt truly loved. I opened my eyes beneath the pale white light of the hospital room. The smell of antiseptic mixed with the steady sound of the ventilator was the first thing I became aware of. The ceiling was speckled with faint blotches of fluorescent light. Everything at first was blurry, like a dream, until I realized I was lying in a hospital bed. My heart was still beating. My breathing, though weak, was steady. I was alive. The room was quiet, with only the beep-beep of the heart monitor reminding me that time was still moving forward. A nurse sat in the corner, her eyes passing over me before widening in surprise when she saw I was awake. She hurried to call the doctor, but I lay there motionless. Not because I was too weak, but because my soul had not yet adjusted to the fact that I had returned to this world. Inside me was a silent but powerful tide of emotion, gratitude, regret, and awe that what I had just experienced was real. I hadn't just survived death, I had brought back a truth I had never once considered in life, that this existence, at its core, is not a contest of who is more righteous, more successful, or more worthy. It is a continual process of learning how to love and forgive others, and more importantly, ourselves. This truth didn't come to me through books or church sermons or anyone's teaching. I learned it, standing on the edge of total spiritual destruction. I remembered those red clouds I saw as I descended into that other realm. They weren't curses, nor were they demons hiding in strange forms. They were part of each person. They were fear, anger, shame, numbness, buried inside the soul over years of living without ever truly confronting oneself. They didn't attack me, but they didn't spare me either. They reflected me. And now that I had escaped that world, I understood that those clouds had no power over my destiny, unless I allowed them to. I had been given a second chance, not to live longer, but to live better. Salvation didn't arrive like some fairy tale miracle. It came the moment I chose to let go of pride, of resentment, and everything I had clung to in the belief that I was right. It came when I bowed my head and admitted I needed forgiveness, I needed the light, and I needed God. Now, as I sit and look out the hospital window, where the winter sun peers through the bare branches of the trees, I no longer see the world the same way. Every person I meet, from the doctors and nurses to the one who brings my meals, I look at them with different eyes. Each one is carrying something deep crimson within their soul, but I know that if they're willing to face it, if they cry out for the light like I did, they too can be saved. And because of that, I cannot keep this story to myself. Justin's story has come to an end. And I want to send this message to everyone. If you can accept and forgive yourself, you will be released from negative energy and be able to return to the place of light. But if you can't bear the truth, if you can't forgive yourself, if you keep running away, you will be pulled down into the place that holds all the negative energy of humanity. And it's not only the bad things that are shown. The kind acts, the love, the compassion you've ever given will also appear during your life review. When you've made someone feel loved, you will also experience the joy they felt because of you. You are worth more than all the material things in this world, more than money, more than fame, more than anything you could ever possess. You are a precious creation in the eyes of God, and He wants you to know that right now. So, don't give up on yourself. No matter where you are in life, no matter how far you feel you've strayed, start building a relationship with Him today. You don't have to be perfect. You don't need to have all the answers. Just open your heart and take one small step toward Him. Embrace this opportunity, live with love and hope, because that is what He has prepared for you. If this story touched your heart like it did mine, I want to invite you to share your thoughts in the comments. What part moved you the most? Has someone ever carried you through darkness while hiding their own pain? By commenting, you're not just expressing yourself, you're becoming part of a community that believes in hope, restoration, and second chances. Your words might be the comfort someone else needs today. And if you haven't yet, make sure to subscribe to Eternal Bible Stories, where real near-death experiences awaken faith and illuminate the soul. Hit that like button if this message resonated with you, and share this story with someone who may need to hear it. May God bless you, and may His love surround your heart always.